Hello, English 242 students. Dr. Mills back with you for Module 8. Welcome to this week's assignments. Basically, today we're covering redemption and social responsibility. You're looking at my screen here. We're going to read Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. That comes in volume 8, pages 348 to 406. You're looking here over my shoulder at Mr. Dickens sitting in his office, contemplating writing. You'll also read the biographical information on Charles Dickens himself. That's on 346 to 348. The lecture materials this week are the video lecture you're watching currently, the context reading. The additional resources are the YouTube link, the video to watch the video on Dickens' life. And then there's only 2 assignments to complete this week. I was feeling kind of bad for you. You've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm kind of behind in grading. Still finishing up the portfolio journal assignments, looking at those before I assign grades on them. I just wanted to make sure that you understood this week. All I'm asking you to do is the lecture quiz based on the lecture you're watching currently, and then the discussion board post before Wednesday night. So if we could, we're looking at what you're seeing inside the module. Here's itself for Module 8. The literary context information, please read that, the literary and historical context. The quiz link is here. There's a password for it. I'm going to give you that password in a second. And then below that is the discussion board post that asks you to post your original post by Wednesday night at 11 and then reply to 2 people before Sunday. So you read the Christmas Carol, the piece, and then I ask you to respond to one or more of the following questions. What moments in Scrooge's journey struck you as most powerful, or why? How does Dickens use the supernatural framework to highlight social injustice? And how does the novella, the story itself, the book, balance sentimentality with serious moral critique? And then lastly, in what ways do you see the themes of A Christmas Carol as being still relevant today? Make sure that you include quotes and specific details from the reading that support your points. Use examples and quotations to support your responses as well. Again, the 2 replies are at least 150 words each then. I'm sorry, did I say originally how long it had to be? It did not. It's usually 250 words for your original post, 150 words for the responses. Make sure this is a meaningful engagement and that you're expanding on the classmate's idea or asking a question or bringing in another example from the reading and not just saying, I like how you did that. Summarize your discussion board activity in your week 8 journal portfolio. Include what you posted, who you replied to, and so on. Again, the video after that is down here in the link for the YouTube link for the Dickens video, which this week is 29 minutes. So again, I'm not making you do as much. However, you do have a lengthy video watch to read and a little bit of a longer reading to read this week as well. Let's get into the lecture for this week, please. Charles Dickens, the voice of his time. He was born in 1812 and died in 1870. Dickens is often called the voice of the Victorian age because his stories did more than just entertain people. They shined a light on the lives of the people who society preferred to ignore. He grew up in hardship himself. When his father went to debtor's prison, his father went to prison because he owed money. He owed money to people. 12-year-old Charles had to work in a shoe polish factory to make ends meet. That experience never left him, and it fueled his lifelong mission to expose poverty and injustice through his fiction. By the 1840s, England was a land of sharp contrast. There was luxury for a few, but misery for many others. Dickens wrote about the gap between the rich and the poor. He wrote about the failings of schools and the coldness of a system that valued money over mercy. His novels, Oliver Twist, Bleak House, and Great Expectations, mix humor with suspense, and also they give us heartfelt moral lessons that show how kindness and compassion can change both individuals and society. So the story behind the Christmas Carol itself, in 1843, Dickens was facing financial trouble and was searching for a way to reach readers very quickly. In just 6 short weeks, he wrote A Christmas Carol, which was a short novel or called a novella that combined the supernatural with social protest. The story's success was instant. It sold out within days and it completely changed how people thought about Christmas. At its heart, A Christmas Carol is a story about second chances. Through the miser, Ebenezer Scrooge, Dickens, the author, asks us, or asks a person who has grown selfish and cold, can they truly ever change? His answer is hopeful. Yes, people can change if the heart can be awakened. So, a summary, what happens in the story? First, we'll talk about Marley's ghost. Scrooge's old business partner, whose name was Jacob Marley, appears dragging heavy chains. Marley warns Scrooge that greed and cruelty in life create spiritual chains in death that you have to drag or carry. Marley tells him that three spirits will visit to save him from the same fate that Marley faces. The password for the quiz this week is Marley, Marley, all lowercase. The first ghost or spirit that visits Ebenezer Scrooge is the ghost of Christmas past. This glowing spirit takes Scrooge back to scenes from his youth. He sees his lonely childhood, his joyful apprenticeship under a man named Fezziwig, and the moment he lost his fiancée because he loved money more than he loved love, or he loved the money more than he actually did love. The memories pierce his pride and show him everything that he's thrown away. Then he's visited by the ghost of Christmas present. The ghost of Christmas present is a jolly giant in green robes that shows Scrooge the world of ordinary people celebrating Christmas. Scrooge visits with the ghost the Cratchit family, who are poor but are full of warmth and love. He is especially moved by tiny, fragile Tiny Tim, whose cheerful spirit contrasts with the bitterness that Scrooge displays. The next ghost that he's visited by is called the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. This ghost is a silent, hooded figure who reveals the future. Scrooge is going to have a very lonely death. He will be unmourned and forgotten by everyone. When faced with this horror, Scrooge begs for another chance. The large part of the story is the transformation that Scrooge experiences. Scrooge awakens on Christmas morning overwhelmed with gratitude. He is now very generous, he becomes caring and joyful, and he proves that compassion can redeem even the hardest heart. The themes in the story and why they still matter. The first theme we'll talk about is social justice and compassion. Dickens, of course, in the story, reminds readers that poverty is not a personal failure, but a social problem itself. He also reminds us that real change begins when we empathize, with empathy, when we're able to empathize. The next theme is greed versus generosity. Scrooge's transformation shows how wealth means very, very little if it isn't used to help people who need help. Memory and redemption is another theme, looking backward and facing what we've done. That can often open up the way to a path towards growth. The spirit of Christmas is the last theme I'll talk about. Dickens helped to reinvent Christmas as a time that was not just for religion, but became now more well known for not just religion, but also community, generosity, and renewal. Even today, many years after its publishing, the story feels fresh because everyone can recognize a little bit of Scrooge within themselves, like the part that forgets to care when you should, or forgetting to pause, or forgetting to give back. Dickens' style and impact often blends humor, emotion, and social critique, so that naturally readers can hardly notice when a ghost story turns into a moral lesson. He gives us these very vivid characters, Scrooge, Marley, Tiny Tim, who all feel very alive, yet they're still symbolic. His language moves from sharp satire to heartfelt sincerity, which reminds us that kindness is, in fact, revolutionary. A Christmas Carol, the novella, didn't just change literature, it changed culture. because after its publication, the celebration of Christmas in Britain shifted more toward family, charity, and goodwill. The phrase Merry Christmas and the idea of helping the poor and the holiday at the holidays became part of the tradition largely due to the publication of this book. Why do we still read it? Dickens' message is simple but powerful. It's never too late to change, and caring for others gives life meaning. Whether we read this as a ghost story or a call for social justice or a reminder to live with empathy, A Christmas Carol still speaks to anyone who's trying to balance success with compassion. That's the lecture for this week. And remember for the quiz, all the key ideas about Dickens' social message, Scrooge's transformation, and the moral symbolism of the ghosts, because they all will appear in the quiz. Also, keep in mind the password you'll need to access the quiz, Marley, Marley, all lowercase. That's all I have for you this week. I hope that you are successful in completing the two assignments this week, the lecture quiz and the discussion board post, and that you're able to enjoy a little time off before your short fall break next week. That's all I have for you. Thanks for your time. Have a good one.